Okay, but today's daf yomi is Kesubos daf ayin beis Kesubos 72. We're going to start on the last three words of ayin aleph from a beis. The Gemara tells us that if a man makes a vow that his wife cannot go to a wedding hall or to a beis avel or to a shiva house or i.e. a funeral, then we say that he has to divorce her if he makes such a vow. So the Gemara says, Bishlam, based on Mishnah, I understand if he makes the vow that she can't go to the wedding. I understand why that it's grounds for divorce. We're on the top of Ayam Beis, I'm at Aleph 72a. Ikunol b'faneh. He's closing down Deles Shel Simcha, Rashi says. He's closing down the door of joy. You can't close down the door of joy on your spouse. That's grounds for divorce. If he says that she can't go to a shiva house or a levaya, what's the problem with that? Gemara says, I'll tell you the problem. Guess what? She's going to die. That's a certainty. They ain't called Beria Softa, and there'll be nobody around to eulogize her because since she didn't go, nobody's going to go to hers. Alternatively, in Kolberia Sofna, that nobody's going to be burying her. Rashi says Sofna means burying her. So I don't remember where else that word appears in the Shas, but Rashi says that's what it means. It means that there'll be nobody else to bury her. So says the Gemara, Tanya, Rabbi Omer, Maidach, Siv Tov Lalachas al Beis Evel, Milachas al Beis Hamishtet. Who's so called What do we do with this pasuk from Koheles where it says it's better to go to a Beis Avel, to a mourner's house, than to go to a Beis Mishteh, to go to a wedding house, because the end of every person is in the death, and the person who's alive should pay attention. What does it mean? What do we do with these words? And the person who's alive should take it to heart. Dvarim shal misa. He said, take to heart things relating to death. Disafai disafdune, dikavar yikvarune, didal yidalune, dilavai yilavune, ditan yitanune. That means to say that disafai, the one who eulogizes will be eulogized. The one who buries people will be buried. The one who cries at a levaya, people will cry at his levaya. The one who escorts the people to the levaya, they'll be escorted. And the one who carries a coffin, other people carry his coffin. Basically, in the social situations, what goes around comes around. Goes around, comes around. So the Talmud then says, but let's say he claims that the reason why he doesn't want to go into these places is because Mishum Davar Achar, because of some other reason, Rishai. Then he's allowed to prevent her from going, and he's not required to divorce her with a ksuba. So my Davar Achar, what are these other circumstances that he's concerned about? Amar Mishum B'nei Adam Prutzin Shemitzuyin Shem. Those places they're filled with places of debauchery, and he's worried that there'll be people who are coarse individuals who'll be there, vulgar people, and that'll be a problem. And Amar Avashilo, Amar Eladis Chazik. No, he has to have proof. It has to be established that way. And although it's Chazik, but if it's not established, local community, he can't just make up that claim. He needs some support. Obviously, he needs support for a claim. I'm not sure exactly what the chiddush here is, but I guess the point that Rav Ashi is saying is that you can't just make an assertion that that a wedding by itself is a place of pritus. You need to have some sort of established idea there. So the Gemara says, if he says on the condition that you will say such and such, then that's grounds for divorce. The Gemara says, well, what's the big deal? Let her say it. So I'm reviewing them. It's something that's very embarrassing her to say. There's a dispute amongst the commentaries. What exactly is it relate to? Does it relate to something embarrassing for the other person to hear, or something to do with sexual matter? Whatever it is, it's something that is very embarrassing for her to say. Or if he says to her that you have to fill up and throw out the trash, then 12 times in a row, then he divorces her. And Mar says, what's the big deal? Let her do it. No, it refers to sexual. It's a euphemism that she becomes filled up with his seed, and then she causes it to she evacuates it from her body. So she clearly does not intend to become pregnant. So he tells her to do that so that she can't become pregnant. Uh, and so that's the concern here, that she has a right to become pregnant. Even though she's not commanded the mitzvah puravu, she has the right. We saw she could say, listen, I need a child for my emotional support. Masnisa Tana, we learned in the Braisa, Shetamali Asara Kade Mayim V'Ti'aro Ashra. She fills up 10 jugs of water and she pours into the trash. Bishlam Shmuel Bishim Hachayotzi Viting Suba. It makes sense that according to Shmuel, that this is the reason that he has to divorce her and give her a ksuva, because he says you don't have to. It makes sense according to Shmuel. You don't have to force her. You know how to force her to not have a child. I find that makes sense. Almas nisa might not go amina, but according to the Brisa, what do we care if she has to fill up something and pour it out 12 times? Why is that grounds for divorce? Tiago, let her do it. So the Gemara says, no, she looks like a fool if she does it. We don't want her looking like, nobody wants to look like a crazy woman. So that looks like insane. You're just filling up the trash and pouring it out. Filling up jugs of water and then pouring them into the trash. You look like you're not stable. The Gemara says, somebody makes a vow that his wife is not allowed to lend or borrow. She's not allowed to borrow or lend. Nafa kever v'reichayim v'tanor, or some of these like sifters or mills or ovens. Yotzi v'ting ksuba. He has to divorce her and give her a ksuba. Shemisia shemra b'shleinusa, because this is going to cause her to have a bad name amongst her neighbors. And indeed, same exact same words, because she's giving it a bad name amongst her neighbors. Let's say she herself is one who took the vow that she cannot borrow or lend out the nafek kavra rachayim tanner, and also also that she cannot weave the beautiful clothing for her children. Let her go out without a ksuba, because she's causing him to have a bad name against his neighbors, meaning to say that causes her to have a bad name, and as a result of this, he's going to be forced to be married to somebody who has a bad name, and so therefore we force him. We say that he could divorce her without a ksuba. So now we come up to the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, these are the women who get divorced without a ksuba. It's the grounds for divorce that you don't have to pay a ksuba. Somebody who violates the laws of Moses and Judah. Moshe, what does it mean to violate the laws of Moshe? This is Rashi says these are the things that Das Yehudis are those things that are not written down in the Torah, that they are customs. So Das Moshe must be things that are written down in the Torah. What is Das Moshe? She feeds him food and was not tithed. She gives him non-kosher. She has relations with him as a nida. She doesn't separate the tithe from the dough, which is called challah, to give to the kohen. She teaches, she makes a vow, but she does not uphold the vow. What is considered the das Yehudis? Yotza v'rasha parua. She goes out to the marketplace and her head is uncovered. V'tava bashuk, or she weaves in the marketplace. Umedaberesim kol adam, or she speaks with everybody, with the men. She's flirtatious. Avishol says, also if she curses, first glance, she curses his the ones who gave birth to him in front of him. She curses his parents. Also the woman who makes a lot of noise. What does that refer to? She's speaking in her house and the neighbors hear her voice. What What does it mean, says the Gemara, that she gives him food that's not tithed? Hey, Chidami, what are we referring to? Idi yada, if she knows, then we'll say, if he knows, nifrosh, let him not eat it. And if he doesn't know if it's tithed or not, mana yada, then how is he ever find out? So the Gemara says, no. Tzricha, the Amrole, she says, Tim, Poni, Kohen, Tiki only has a kri. She says, Kohen showed up and prepared for me the bushel of grain, and he did the tithe with me. I did it with him. And then the husband goes and asks the Kohen, he says, she's a liar. So that's how he proves it. What's this case referring to? If he knows, he's not allowed to be with her. If he doesn't know, then he can rely upon her. And you know how you can rely upon a woman about nida. How do we know that a nida, it counts the days of nida for herself? Because it says she counts 7 days, which means she counts herself. She doesn't need to go to the court and have the court count for her. So she says, no, I went to this chacham and he approved for me the blood. I mean, he said I was tahora, I wasn't tamea. And then he went and he found that she lied about that. By the way, what's the difference in this case and the case of the tithe with the Kohen? Isn't the exact same thing. So I was thinking that maybe we could say that the chacham with the Kohen, he has a vested interest in saying if he got it or not, because he could get more, or if he didn't get it, he'd say, listen, she denied it to me. So whereas the chacham is completely objective, he's completely objective, and so therefore it's an even bigger chiddush that so therefore it's a bigger chiddush by the Kohen that we could rely upon. Or by say more alternatively, so he says, no, even if it's just established by the neighbors that she's in nida, meaning to say the neighbors see the clothing that she wears, they see the type of clothing and say, oh, she's in nida. So therefore, that's not even a chacham. That's even bigger chiddush. It's not even a chacham. Gemara says, well, let's say she doesn't separate the chala. Again, what's the scenario? So if he knows, then don't eat it. If he doesn't know, how does he know? She says, this baker took the dough out for me. He found out the guy was lying, that she was lying. There's a big chiddush also, because previously we're believing a Kohen, we're believing neighbors, we're believing a chacham. Here we're just believing a baker. And that's still sufficient for him to be able to divorce her without exiluk. She makes a vow and doesn't uphold it. The Amar Nidarim, with the sin of vows, Banim Mesim. The sin of people taking vows, children die. It states, don't give your mouth over to cause your flesh to sin. And what are considered and then it says in the end of that verse, basically the work of your hands will be destroyed. So what is you're going to be destroying the work of your hands? What is the Ma'aseh Yadav Shalav? This is Banavu Benosa. These are his sons and his daughters. Rav Nachman says, no, how do we know that children die? Because people make vows, because it says, for no reason did I strike down your children. L'shav really means al iske shav, because you took unnecessary vows. Whoever knows that his wife is a vower but doesn't uphold it, go back and make her take a vow. Gemara says, make her take a vow. That doesn't do anything. So it means no, go back and make her. He shouldn't have to divorce her, but he should just get her upset. So she makes the vow in front of him, and that's how he's able to annul the vow, because he hears her making the vow, and he knows all her vows. They said to him, no, if that's what she's doing, don't try to fix the situation. Get rid of the marriage. You can't live with a snake in the basket. Whoever knows that his wife is not taking chawa, go back after she makes the dough, and then you go in and you separate it. Well, they said to him, no, ain't adam daram nachash b'kfifa. No, you can't live with a snake in the same basket because it's impossible. The snake's going to get you at one point. So, man demas nilaha kol shekinahach. The one who learns this statement about the one who says a statement on on Rabbi Yehuda, who says it that she's not taking challah, that then we're going to say that there's a takana that you could go back and take it. For sure, we would say about Nadarim, because challah is an everyday occurrence, but the vows is not as common. So if you say you can fix the challah, for sure you can go back and fix the vows. But Mandi Masnilaha, but one who learns that the statement that you can fix the situation was only with respect to vows. In the mikveh, we wouldn't say it about the challah because by the challah, if it's an everyday occurrence, you might just get messed up and end up eating it without realizing it. Hold on 1 second. Right. So what's the solution? He says, make her more upset so she makes vows. So the whole idea is you get her upset. So then she says every single vow, like she curses you with every single vow under her arsenal. And then you know exactly what you're dealing with and you can know all her vows. That's how the Ritva explains it. So it says a woman who goes out with her head uncovered, that's considered dat Yehudit. And grounds for divorce without Kesubos. And Mara says, well, Rosha Perua Diraisi, that's not Das Yehudis, that's not custom, that's a biblical law. Because it says, Ufara as Rosh Haisha, that when it refers to the Sota woman, she uncovers her head. This is a warning to the daughters of Israel that they can't go out with an uncovered head. Rashi explains as follows. So what does that have to do with the Sota? How is the Sota a source? Rashi gives 2 explanations. Explanation number 1, is from the fact that this is what we do to the Sota woman. We uncover her hair to embarrass her. Mida keneged mida. It's a measure for measure. Kamosha asta lisnaus alboa, just like she did. Lisnaus alboa, to look pretty for her husband. We call the usher. So from the fact that we do this to her, that proves that it's disgusting. That proves that it's prohibited. Inaim dachsif ufara, we call the hushata lav paruahu. This teaches us at that moment where she went out, she was not. Her head was not uncovered. Shema mina ein derech bnei Yisrael. It says Pirush Rosh. It teaches us that in general, the daughters of Israel don't go out with uncovered head. Rashi proves of the second approach, which means the same when she comes to the temple, we uncover her head, which means Mistama, she had her head covered. So the Gemara says, Diraitza Kawasa Shapir Dami. Das Yehudis Afilu Kalta Nami Aser. So biblically speaking, she could go out or on top of 72b. Biblically speaking, she can go out with just a basket on her head. But according to Das Yehudis, even the basket is prohibited. So Amar Rabbi Asi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kalasa Ein Ba Mishum Parua Rosh. She says that if she has this kalasa, this basket on her head, then it's not considered to be like an uncovered head. So Rabbi Zera, where are we referring to? If it's in the marketplace, Das Yehudisi. Then it's Das Yehudis. Of course, she has to cover her head, and a basket is not sufficient in the marketplace. El B'chater, in her courtyard, she has to cover her head even with a basket, even in a courtyard. There's going to be no Jewish girl who will be able to live in those conditions. No, it means where she goes out via one courtyard to another courtyard via the alleyway. So that's going to be the concern, that's not going to, that under those circumstances the basket is okay. But Tava Bashuk, and if she weaves in the marketplace, he can divorce her without a ksuba. Amar Rabbi Yehuda much more. It's where she shows her arms when she's weaving to people. It's where she weaves, and the thread she draws down towards her private parts, and this brings attention to them. When we Adam, she speaks with people, and that causes her to get divorced without a ksuba. This refers to a case where she is playing around with the young boys. She's flirting with the boys. So Amar Rabba Bar Barchana Zimna Chada Avaka Zilna Basrei Deravu. For one time I was walking after Rav Ukva. Chazite Rahi Arvaya. I saw this Arab girl, Dava Yasva, that she was sitting there, Kashaja Pilcha. She was taking the threads, Vitava, and weaving, Vered Keneged Panea. She was weaving with the thread near her privates, and Kivan de Chazisinam. And since we saw this, Psik de la Pilcha, she stopped and she broke it off, and Shadisa, she threw it down. And Amrali, and she said, Amrali, Olam Havli Pelach. And so she said to me, at that time, she said to me, Amrali, Ulam, young boy, Havli Pelach, bring me this spindle, bring me the thread so I can weave it. Meaning she was trying to be flirtatious. So Amar Bar Rav Ukva Milsa. So Rav Ukva said about this to her. Rav Ukva said about this. He said something. What did he say? What did Mar Ukva say about this? Ravina said that this is exactly what our Mishnah refers to when we said that Tava Bashuk, that somebody weaves in the marketplace. That's why it's grounds for divorce. Look how she weaves. She's trying to be flirtatious, and Rabbanan Amri Medaberesim Kol Adam Amar Ba. No, he said about her that she was just being flirtatious with other boys. That what is this? This is the case of the Medaberesim Kol Adam. So Abba Shal says, also one who curses his parents in front of him. What does that refer to? I'm Rabbi Yehuda Mashal Mekalelas Yolidav Bifnei Molidav. So it refers to the case of. No, I was always translating it. I was translating it. I'm sorry, I had like a block. I was translating it. Yeah. So the point is, what is this referring to? It refers to that she translates that. What does she do? So it says Rabbi Yehuda Mashal b'Mekalelas Yoldav b'Fnei Moladav. She's translating. She's cursing his parents in front of his grandchildren. B'Mekalelas Yoldav b'Fnei Molidav. So there's a different version of our Gemara says Yolidav, but the text here is the Gra changes it to Yoldav. So she curses those who gave birth to him in front of his grandchildren. Simanech Ephraim Menashe Keruven Shimon Yuli. That Yaakov Avinu says Ephraim and Menashe are like Reuven and Shimon. Means say if you curse them, the grandchildren feel the curse of their parents. She said, where she says, let a lion eat Saba in front of her husband's son. So in front of the grandson, she says, I wish your grandfather would be eaten. Meaning to say, she curses out the grandfather in front of the grandson. Rabbi Tarfon says also the Kohanis is divorced without a ksuba. What is a Kohanis? My Kohanis, Rabbi Yehuda Mashmol, b'meshmaas kolal iski tashmis. She speaks very loudly in discussing matters relating to marital intimacy. Now it refers to a woman who, when she engages in intercourse, she's heard in the next courtyard. So the Gemara says, well, if that's the case, it should be taught when we're going to learn the Mishnayot that have to do with blemishes, this should be taught as a blemish. Okay, no, so she speaks loudly about private matters and they're heard in the other courtyards. So it says the Mishnah, let's say a person betroths a woman, on the condition she has no vows, and it turns out in the end she has a vow. We're going to say that the betrothal was not valid. He betrothed her on one condition, that she has no vows. She has no vows. Let's say he konsastam. Let's say what happened was he married her without specifying it, and then he finds out she has vows. Again, he could divorce her without a ksuba. Mara is going to say, what is this referring to? Is it referring to somebody who betrothed her on the condition she has no vows, or is it its own statement? Mara is going to discuss that. Let's say on the condition that she has no blemishes. When she has blemishes, then we're going to say she's not betrothed. Let's say he just marries her and then he discovers she has blemishes. She's going to be divorced without a ksuba. All the mumen who are all the blemishes that disqualify the kohanim are disqualifying to the women, and the Mishnah in Bechoros tells us all the blemishes that disqualify the kohanim from serving in the temple. So we're going to get into those. The Gemara Bechoros Gimel Amud Aleph discusses it. So it says the Gemara V'Tnan Nami Gabi Kedushin Ki Gabna. So the Gemara says we learned in Kedushin the same Mishnah. So why does Rebbe have to teach it twice? The same Mishnah appears here, and the same Mishnah appears in Kedushin. Rashi says Mishnah Zu Shnuya BeKedushin Peraka Ish Mekadesh. Ma'ishna the Stam Rebbe trades in me. Why does Rebbe say the same Mishnah twice? That if you betroth a woman on the condition that she doesn't have a vow, and she has a vow, it's not a betrothal. So Gemara says, Hacha Kesubos is tzrichoi. Here Rebbe needed to teach us this because of Kesubos, because it teaches us that Kantastam v'nimtzu aleha, let's say you married her and then you found the vows, that she goes out without a Kesuba. So the Gemara says, and therefore Tani Kedushin out to Kesubos. Therefore, because Rebbe needs to get to the point of the Kesubos, so therefore, because Rebbe needs to get to the Kesubos, he taught about the betrothal so he could get us to the case of the Kesubos. But Hasam or in Kedushin it's tzrichoi. Rebbe needs to teach us the law of the Mekadesh, a woman betroths a woman on the condition she doesn't have a vow or a blemish that she's not betrothed, and because and so therefore Tana Kesubos atu Kedushin. Because Rebbe was already teaching about the betrothals, therefore he also taught the laws of Kesubos, but the main point there was the Kedushin. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishimer ben Yotzadok be'elu nedarim amru. Which vows does this law of the Mishnah refer to? That if he married her on the condition that she doesn't have a vow, under which vows are we referring to? So the Gemara is about to explain, are we referring to the case where he was Mekadesh on the condition she doesn't have a vow, or somebody married her without specifying, and then he discovers the vows? So Shalo Tochel Basar, Shalo Tishtei Yayin, Mishalo Tiskashet, Big Day Tzivonim. So it's referring to the case where she doesn't eat meat, she has a vow not to eat meat or drink wine, or that she doesn't wear fancy clothing. And so which things are relating to? Those things that relate to Inoi Nefesh, relate to properly maintaining the soul, and these are things that are going to be repulsive to him. She doesn't wear a collar clothing. So Have Be Rav Papa, here's a $64 question. So Rav Papa asks, when we say this case of uh, of this teaching that she can't eat meat, she can't drink wine, and she can't wear colored clothing. Which part of the Mishnah is referring to? This refers to the first clause where he says explicitly, I marry you on the condition you have no vows. And so if that's the case, that shouldn't work. Why? Because we have a problem. Keeping the carpet, since he clearly doesn't want any vows, I feel call me nami. Any vows should be problematic. Ella Seifa must be referring to the Seifa that if he married her and then he discovers a vow, he divorced her without a ksuba, that refers to these specific vows, not eating meat, not drinking wine, and not wearing colored clothing. Rashi says, no, Olam Reisha. Rashi says it refers to the Reisha. No, when he says he wants to marry her only that she has no vows, he means vows that people will be upset about. That's what he cares about. But but if it's something that nobody cares about, well, then he's not really. That's not what he was referring to, and it's not considered a kapeda. He didn't care about it, and so therefore, even though she has a vow, she's going to be betrothed under those circumstances. It's still a valid betrothal because those other vows he doesn't care about. Okay, so we're going to stop here. God willing, we'll